raise your hand. Go ahead.
Yeah, I think a narrative is better than a personal recount.
And again, why is a narrative better than a personal recount?
No, because for the narrative, I feel like, since there's a problem, you can like write more about external or internal conflicts, and I think it will develop the story more. And like, if suppose like just an example, if you're writing about teamwork, at first maybe the group didn't have teamwork, and then
Mm,
they like
mm.
were all in conflicts, and then in
Correct,
the end
correct.
everyone separated. But at the ending, as a conclusion, if you put that everyone joined back together and they learn their lesson, I feel like it creates a bigger impact on the reader because they know the effects of like not having teamwork. So I think it's better to have a narrative because there's a conflict and learning points.
Okay, very good. So a personal recount doesn't always have a moral, right? Because remember, a moral is something that you learn from a conflict, right? And a personal recount doesn't have a conflict, right? It's just a narrative of what happened in the day without anything going wrong. So yeah, is doubly correct. Huh? One, a narrative contains a conflict, and a conflict is always inherently more interesting. And two, a conflict gives rise to a lesson, right? When you go through a conflict, you tend to learn something, right? You tend to learn something either about yourself or about the world around you. And that is what adds interest level to a narrative above a personal recount. So to answer the question, yes, a narrative is always stronger than a personal recount. And unless you really cannot help it, don't write a personal recount. Do you all understand? If you do, give me a thumbs up, please. Okay, if you understand, give me a thumbs up, okay? So never write a personal recount, right? Thank you. Unless you really have no choice. Otherwise, always come up with a conflict. And today's topic, right, actually lends itself to a conflict, right? Because an interesting discovery, the interesting can be a negative interesting. In other words, it can be something that attracts your attention for all the wrong reasons. Okay, so attracting your attention for the wrong reasons, and then something going wrong can be the premise for our conversation today. Okay, so this is for you guys online. This is for everybody in the classroom as well. When you're writing a story, please write a story that has to do with a particular problem and how you resolve that problem, because the conflict must be resolved by the end of the story. We are not writing a hanging conclusion or a to be continued story, right? We are dealing with a story that must be concluded by the end of this composition. Okay, so that's what we're going to do today. I'm going to give you a format for introducing conflict and cutting to the chase, right? Because we don't want to start the story with a beautiful day, and then I brushed my teeth, I woke up, I went to the school. All of that is rubbish. Okay, all of that is wasted time and space. Okay. Yes, Dia, you raised your hand.
Yeah, I have a question.
Yep.
So, if you're writing a narrative which includes a conflict, do you think
Yep.
it would be too much if there was both external and internal conflicts in the narrative?
Fair enough. So are you overdoing it by putting both
Yeah.
types of conflict? No, actually, I would say it's a more complete picture. Because if you think about it, right, whenever you encounter an external conflict, right, don't
You
you
always
also have
have an
any?
internal
Yeah,
conflict, yeah.
you will feel a certain way, right? Yeah, you will feel like resentful, you will feel angry, or you will feel, and then you have to struggle against that feeling, right? Because you don't want to let that feeling overwhelm you, right?
Yeah,
You don't
so
want
do
that
you
feeling to
think that it
dictate.
will like enhance the emotions of the certain person in the story better?
Yeah, absolutely, right? In fact, I would say as far as possible, always try to include both types of conflict, internal and external. And if you can connect the two conflicts together, right? How the internal led to the external, or how the external led to the internal, wow, that would be even better. That's the mark of a mature writer, right? Your ability to link all your ideas together, including your conflicts. Okay. So yes, Dia, thank you for that question. It's a good and insightful one. Basically, we want conflict, and we want as much conflict as possible, and we want the conflicts to be connected one to the other as far as possible. The degree of your connection will determine the degree of the coherence or the interest level of your story. Okay, remember we talked about coherence, right? Coherence when everything sticks together. It's not like falling apart here and there, right? You don't want a zombie story, right? One arm falling off, one leg falling off, right? Very boring, very, very silly looking. Okay, so you want everybody, every part of the story to be connected together in a coherent manner. Okay, right. So let's get to it. Enough talk. Let's get down to the story itself. Okay. Let me just change my perspective for a while. Okay. I'm not going to be able to see you for the duration of this while I'm doing this. Okay, so please be on your best behavior, okay? I'm not going to be checking on you. Okay, let's see. Okay, so let's get started. Okay, Now, first looking at the pictures, right? An interesting discovery. There's picture 1, picture 2, and picture 3. Now, picture 1 is a girl studying, right? And I remind all of you, right? The picture doesn't have to be strictly adhered to. The girl can become a boy, right? The book can become a magazine or a newspaper, right? It doesn't have to be strictly adhered to. You can use just elements of that picture to write your story. The second picture is a box. Again, the box can be open, the box can be closed, the box can be big, the box can be small. Doesn't matter as long as there's some kind of box in your story, okay? And then the third one is a letter. Again, the letter can be a postcard, can be a written letter, it can be anything, okay? Give me a minute. Guys, do you mind? You are here for self-study or to ask me questions, not for discussions or group work. I remind all of you to please not disrupt the lesson. Thank you very much. You can ask questions, you can do your own practice, okay, but please do not generate noise because that will interfere with my Zoom session. All right? Thank you. Sorry, do you say something? Thank you. Right. So at this point in time, there shouldn't be any questions. Now let's do a vote, okay? You can respond in chat now. Which picture should we pick now? So I will give you some possibilities, okay? The first picture will be finding an interesting fact or an interesting point of view from a book. The second picture, the box can be like, you know, a ticking time bomb or some kind of, you know, terrorism or, you know, hostage related issue. And then the third one can be an interesting letter or interesting postcard or an interesting advertisement that you receive in the mail. Okay, so can you vote 1, 2, or 3? Then I will go with your vote, okay? Okay, I'm seeing box, I'm seeing number 3, letter. Okay, number 2, 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 number 2. Everybody's doing number 2. Okay, right, overwhelming majority choose number 2. Okay, so we'll do number 2. Okay, now the other question is, can I write more than one picture? Yes, but remember my point is that the more pictures you choose, the more diluted your story will be. Okay, because you have to follow more pictures, right? Your story becomes narrower and narrower. So the less pictures you choose, the broader and more interesting your story can be. The more pictures you choose, the more narrow and constrained your story will be. Okay. Yes. Again, Dia, what is it?
Well, yeah. So for the third picture, you know the letter one,
Yes.
the one of the letter, I
Yep.
can see like a mountain kind of thing. So can I
Yep.
write like um maybe you're a scout and then you wanna and then the scouts are going to a certain place and then you go there and something interesting happens there. So like can I write it like that or does the interesting thing need to be in the letter?
Oh no, no, no. The interesting thing can be what the letter or the postcard is about. You're absolutely fine with that. But remember, if you're writing a postcard or a letter, right, then it has to be something overseas, right? Correct?
Yeah.
Because if you are in Singapore, then you wouldn't need to write a postcard or mail a letter to tell your friends what. You could just go and talk to them, right? So the very fact that you choose a third picture is actually a bit more complicated. Because when would you send an email or a postcard? I'm sorry, a postcard or a letter? Only when you're overseas,
You don't have
right?
WhatsApp.
Yeah, you don't have WhatsApp, or you could send a WhatsApp message, but the fact that this is an email or I'm sorry, a letter or a postcard tells you that you are traveling. Okay, so there's the element of travel here, which is why I wouldn't pick the third picture, because the third picture has the added complexity of considering travel. Okay, yes, Kanish?
Apart, can the third picture be like not you know the private and confidential letter you sometimes get?
Yeah.
Can it be one of those?
Like you're talking about like a debt collection notice or like a
Adoption or
government
something.
letter. Oh, okay, yeah, sure. It could be confidential information about your adoption status. Yeah, that's a good idea. Yeah, you could write about adoption because remember we talked about what Salama didn't know. That was like one of the units we covered, right? This girl who was adopted and everything. Yeah, then she discovered, right? The discovery could be your status as an adopted child. Yeah, that works too. But remember that the more complicated your story, the longer it has to be. And time is of the essence in the composition. You don't want to choose too complicated a story. Yes, Zoe. Good questions, everybody. Keep it coming. Yep,
For
Zoe.
for the third picture, can you write like it's a letter from the police saying there's like a break-in near your house, so like be vigilant. Then after that, your friends decide to be very naughty children and go break into the house and see what the robber did, and like that's your amazing discovery.
You could, and it would be relevant to the theme, but it sounds like a pretty complicated story again. For you to write a story of that complexity and length, you will need more than 50 minutes. So you have to judge in 50 minutes, right, 50, or even 45 minutes, depending on how long your email is. Because if it's formal, right, you're going to take more than 20 minutes, right? Then you have 45 minutes left, right? You're not going to be able to develop that complex a story. You just want the letter to be the interesting discovery, rather than the letter leading to an interesting discovery, like, you know, a haunted house or criminal activity. That's going to take a longer time, right? Because you then first have to write about getting the letter, reading the letter, your reaction to the letter, discovering what the letter is about, then going on to explore, right, the matter related to it. Is too long. Okay, can you see it's too long, right? So try to work on a theme or a topic that can be compact enough to finish in 45 minutes and give you enough time to develop your vocabulary and develop your language. Because if you're rushing to finish your story, right, you won't have time to pay attention to the language. And then your language will suffer, right? And if you write a compact enough story, you have time to finish, come back, enhance your language, and then score well for both language and content, right? Does that make sense to you? Okay, so don't try to elongate your story too much, because the longer the story, the less attention you have to the type of language and the type of expression that you're using. And that's super important, not just now, but in secondary school as well. When you go to secondary school and you're writing discursive essays, argumentative essays, time is of the essence. You will be writing big topics, you know, things like, you know, should uniforms be used in school? You know, should schools be allowed to choose their own CCAs? Those are big topics. And in the time that you have to write about it, right, you have to be very focused on what you want to write. Otherwise, you will end up not having enough time, or you will write very superficially and it will be very boring to read. Okay, so choose the scope. In this case, right, the reason why I choose number 2 is because number 2, right, is obvious, right? And number 2 has excitement value because like some terrorism related. And then I can twist it in the end so that it's not about terrorism, right? There's a twist potential. So it can be what I think it's going to be, like I think it's a terrorism threat, but then it turns out to be something very innocuous and very innocent instead. And then it causes embarrassment and it causes, you know, a laughter, or it's like a comedy. I could twist it in that way. So the second picture with the box allows me to go interesting positive or interesting negative. And isn't it even better if I can do both, right? If I can do interesting negative at first, and then later on it turns out to be something that's interesting but in a positive light. Okay, so that's kind of what's in my mind. I want to pack as much as possible within as short a space as possible. And it seems to me like the second picture allows me to do that. Okay, wow. Ladies and gentlemen, let's applaud ourselves. Full attendance, you know, good job. Okay, look at yourselves. There are 40 of you. Well done, good job. Okay, right. Okay, so I hope that answering these questions and giving you my pointers has given you a clearer perspective of how you should plan your composition. Okay, first look at the theme, look at the keyword, then look at the picture that suits the keyword best. In this case, interesting discovery. Interesting can be positive or negative. Discovery has to be something that I find out. It has to be a surprise of some sort. And then the box seems to most easily and perfectly fit that theme. Okay, so now I'm going to go into the template version of it. How do I start a story such that I sidestep all the unnecessary information? I don't want to talk about waking up, brushing my teeth, going downstairs, taking the bus to school. All of that is wasted space and wasted words. We don't want to do that in a 50-minute limitation, right? We want to give focused attention on the important parts of the story. Okay, and in this case, the important part of the story is the theme of an interesting discovery. So I want to get to the discovery as quickly as possible. How quickly? In the first paragraph, right? Straight away in the first paragraph, right? I'm going to address it before I flash back. I move back in time to how I discovered the box. Okay. Before I continue, wait, hold on. Let me just see your visual reactions. I'm a bit insecure. I just need to look at your faces. Okay. Do you all understand what I'm saying? Yeah. What I'm essentially saying is starting in the middle, right? Okay. I'm asking you to start in the middle, right at where the problem is. Okay. And the problem, of course, in this case, would be the discovery of a suspicious box containing some kind of threat. Okay. Now, what is the easiest way for me to express the threat that this box poses? Anyone? What's the easiest way to express that a box is threatening? Right. I mean, I obviously cannot have like something written on it saying this is very threatening, right? I mean, that would be silly, right? But what's the easiest way for me to achieve that threat? Okay. Something threatening from the box. Solomon, go ahead.
Can I say like flashing lights and ticking sounds?
Flashing lights, a bit obvious, right? Yeah. I mean, no lah, it can't be that obvious lah, right? Okay, otherwise the box would already have been disturbed or found out. Okay, ticking sounds possible. It could be ticking sound. That's one possibility. Skylar?
Making the box as innocent as possible,
Mm-hmm.
like making it look like a normal cardboard box so that it makes people look more suspicious. Makes it look more
Okay,
suspicious.
so you're saying that the box should look ordinary in its exterior, right? So that it doesn't give away its deadly content, so to speak. Okay, but like I said, right, there must be something that gives it away, lah. Otherwise, I wouldn't discover it, right? I'll just walk past it, right? I'll just like think it's a normal box. So the discovery could be the ticking sound, possible. Kanish, go ahead, and then I'll get Nicholas later.
So I have two ideas. The first one, right, is it's kept in a very hidden area, so like not much people can see it.
Possible, yeah.
And then it's also a gut feeling.
Okay, your gut feeling. Oh, very good. That's an interesting use of gut feeling. Good. Nicholas, and then Zoe.
It's vibrating.
Vibrating. Okay, possible.
And then, like
Yeah. So
Anish said, gut feeling.
gut feeling. Okay, good. Zoe.
Like the box is like fragile or caution on it.
Okay, so there are stickers on it that say fragile and stuff like that. Okay, possible. Adrian.
There's like a smell of like burning from inside or like
Okay,
some
good.
strange smell.
Okay, good. Smell. All right. Larissa.
Like a beeping sound that gets faster and faster.
Okay, an accelerating beeping sound, like not just a ticking sound, but a beeping sound that gets faster and faster. Good, that gives it away. Good, Dia.
Like I have an idea. So like inside the box, can there be like a sound coming like I will find you, but in like a creepy way? But then like in the end, they end up discovering that it's just like a toy bird that they use for Halloween. And
Okay,
then
right. Yeah,
like
yeah. Possible.
everyone
Yeah.
was like very scared, and then they didn't dare to touch it or open it. And then the ticking sounds got too loud, and then they were too annoyed by it. And then when they touched it, the bird just like, because of vibration, it just like screams or something. And then the entire box rattles, and then like they open it, and then they were like, wait, so this was it the entire time? So something like that.
Right. Okay. So like a variation of a Jack in the Box kind of a story, right? Okay. Something that you felt was threatening, but then it turns out to be very innocuous, or even a gift that you prepared for your friend or something like that. Okay. So yeah, totally. And that's what we want, right? We want the twist. Because even if your twist is not very well executed, right? The fact that you're using a twist is already an advanced technique in writing. So you want to twist it in some way, an unexpected, right? An unforeseen change in the story. And in this case, it fits the interesting discovery theme very well. Okay, because the discovery can be that things were not what you thought they were, right? The discovery is on one level, what is inside the box. On the second level, the more metaphorical level is, I didn't expect that this was going to be the case. Okay, yes, Solomon? One last one before we go on with the writing.
Is it possible for the second picture, like the box is very like too much protection, like a lot of tape, for example, to make and then like something is trying to break out. Right.
It could be something that's contained inside, right? And then it causes some fear and anxiety, right? It could actually just be a puppy, right? That someone has contained within the box to give as a gift. Okay, but there are suspicious sounds and noises coming out, of the box, and then it creates fear and anxiety. But the interesting discovery is that fear changes into maybe, cuteness, right? It changes into like this awesome, cute puppy that jumps out at the end. So there's a shift in the mood of the story. Yeah, I think that's a possibility as well. Okay, I already said that's the last one. Kanish, please lower your hand. Thank you. Okay, let's move on to the writing. Okay, let's get down to it. So how do I plunge myself into the story? Well, very simply, I just start in the middle, right? Okay. Let me just trigger my Word document. I'm going to stop share. Okay, then I'm going to share the Word document. Okay. Right. I'm going to give us all a break at 9:30. Is that okay? Right. Let's take a break at 9:30. Okay, then we'll come back after 15 minutes, right? Back online again, right? And then we'll continue with the Zoom. Okay. So at 9:30, someone buzz me, then we stop for a while. Okay. Screen break. Okay, wait. Just get this up and running. all of your faces are blocking the word document. Okay. So okay, so begin with dialogue. Why? Because dialogue can cue you in to the story immediately, right? Okay, boys and girls, take a look at what I've written. Okay, can you all tell me if you have any questions or issues with what I've written? Are there any words that you don't understand? No? Okay. So the technique that I'm demonstrating here is dialogue followed by starting in the middle, right? And I'm introducing the problem from the word go. Have I already used the picture? Yes, right? I've already used the picture. Now, have I already indirectly mentioned the theme of the story? I have, right? When I talk about the mysterious parcel, right? And the fact that I'm creeping a bit closer to try to discover what's in it. Okay, so in the first paragraph, try to already engage both the picture and the theme, and then repeat that again in the last paragraph, right? That's for safety's sake. Huh? Duncan, you have a question?
What does emanating mean?
Okay, emanating means to come out of. Usually you can say something emanates in terms of the smell, or you can say something emanates in terms of a sound, right? Or you can say something emanates in terms of what you see. Okay, light can emanate, sound can emanate, right? Anything that travels in a wave emanates, okay? So you can learn this word as your vocabulary, okay? But later on, I will send you some vocabulary words that you can use for your different expressions for anger, sadness, and all of that. If that can add. Yeah, so no worries about that, okay? But for now, just clarify with me if you don't understand any vocabulary, and I'll try to explain it to you. Okay, so far, the story is leading in the direction of something being in a box, okay? Now, the kind of sound that I choose and the kind of, like clues that I use will determine what's inside the box, okay? So if I'm talking about ticking sounds, right, or beeping sounds, right, then what kind of object could possibly be in a box? Anyone? Yep, Joshua?
A clock.
Right? Or what else, Nicholas?
A watch.
A watch, right? Yeah. All very innocent things, right? Not actually a bomb, right? But I could think it's a bomb. Possible. Okay. Adrian?
It's all right. Though I wanted to say something that didn't really make sense.
Okay, now mind. All right, Kanish?
Maybe like a toy robot. It's your birthday, so your uncle buys a toy robot.
So toy robot, right? So basically, right, when you choose a ticking or a beeping sound, right, it's going to be a non-living thing, right? It's going to be an object of some sort, right? So if you want to write your story about a non-living thing, choose a non-living sound and make it very clear from the beginning that it's a non-living thing, right? A beeping or clicking or a ringing, right? Or a ticking, sound. All of these are inorganic, non-living things. But if you want something living, right, then you want, what kind of sounds can you use to express that something living is trapped inside the box, right? What kind of sounds would, or what kind of smells or sounds would suggest to you that something living is inside the box? Okay, if I want something living, okay, Kanish, go ahead.
A rustling or something trying to get out.
Rustling, okay, Ariel?
And then smell of poop.
Like the sounds of scratching, like the
Scratching?
animal is scratching a cardboard box.
Yeah, because of the claws, right? Or the fangs or the talons, right? Yeah, very good. So the scratching sound, good. Hao Qian?
The box is like moving slightly.
Okay, so there's some movement, right? Movement can be living or non-living, right? But I think more towards living. Yeah, good. Hao Qian. Clarissa?
Like growling or something.
Some kind of organic noise, right? Like growling, purring, right? These things will be dead giveaway. Guys, can you all see that it cannot be too obvious, right? Because from the very beginning, right, if I use the word purring, for example, purring, right, does that give away? Does it literally let the cat out of the bag? It does, right? I mean, I can immediately, literally, like, I don't even need to think about it. Is a cat boring already? The rest of your story, like, no setup already, right? Because there's no suspense, right? You want to build suspense. You want to give this sense of, I don't know what's actually in the box. And the more suspense you build, the more effective your story is, right? So don't give it away, right? Don't like, purring, right? Scratching, you know, that kind of stuff. Don't give all the clues off at once. You can progressively release it, okay? So I'm going to go with organic. I'm going to go with something living, okay? And people like Ariel, if you are very experienced with pets, right? Then you want to angle your story towards pets. You get what I mean? If you are very experienced with certain things, right? Like some of you build robots, right? Because you're in ICT club, right? Then you want to write about robots, or you want to write about something that's related to robots so that it's playing to your strengths, right? You don't want to choose something that you're not very familiar with. Okay, so always play to your strengths. Same for oral, right? I taught you all this. Okay, so let's go. I'm gonna go with dogs because, like, generally I'm a dog lover and you know I've experience with dogs. Okay, so let's go. A faint scratching noise reached our ears as we incline our heads closer to the suspicious. Did I already use the word? No, I haven't. Suspicious box. Okay, right. I broke out in goosebumps as that faint scratching noise sounded out again. Visions of creepy crawlies filled my mind as I shrank back in fear. My arachnophobia rendering me paralyzed. Okay, right? Okay, so again, don't lose any opportunity to introduce interesting words. Okay, so do I actually have arachnophobia? No, but it seems to fit, right? Can you imagine the faint scratching noises being similar to how like you would imagine spiders would, like, you know, like kind of like creep across a cardboard box, right? That kind of faint scratching and pattering sound. Okay, so I'm likening it to I'm simileing it. I'm you know, it sounds like spiders, okay? And I have arachnophobia. So I'm adding layers to my story. Okay, got it so far? Yes, Kanish, you have a question?
Mr. Pang, you added fear twice in the same sentence.
Okay, so maybe I can repeat, I can replace the word fear with something. Would you like to suggest another word?
Actually, don't know.
Okay, all right. I think that works. Okay, so far so good. This is a good point that Kanish brought up. If in the course of my writing, I realize that I'm repeating certain words, right, then try to substitute them with synonyms. Okay, it can be either a word or a phrase. Okay, or you can use a simile or a metaphor to express fear. Again, I will send you a list of some similes, metaphors, and expressions that you can use to substitute for fear, for shock, for joy, for excitement, all these various expressions, and then also your physical and bodily reactions to them. Okay, so I shrank back. I shrank back is an example of show not tell, right? I don't say that I'm afraid. I show my body language, and then I show my internal thoughts, right? Arachnophobia, right? Irrational fear of spiders, okay? Which is what we learn in primary 5 under phobias, right? That kind of stuff. So I'm just trying to use as much of what I have learned as possible. So at this stage, right, the first paragraph is done. And I have set the stage, right? And I've already used the theme and I've already used the picture. I'm already home free. The rest of it, right, is just for me to develop the story and to bring the interesting discovery to light. Okay, but I've already set the stage and I'm actually good to go, right? So in this story, right, the runway is very short, right? I don't really have to flashback that far because I've already given you background about who I am. I'm a student, right? What time it is in the morning. Where I am, I'm at home. This occurs at my front door, right? And I'm with my brother. So all the characters and settings have actually already been introduced. Okay, I don't actually need to even flashback, right? So this is this is my shortcut for you. If you blank out, right, you don't know what to write, right, and you do want to do flashback, right? Because flashback can be confusing, then use this method. In the first paragraph, right, introduce all the things already. But don't go into the cerulean clouds in the sky, don't know what, the wind wave through the mystical trees, rustling the greenery and stuff like that. Don't do that because none of that is relevant to the story. The story is about an interesting discovery. The background and the weather, in this case, not really very important. Okay, so you save your description in your words for the actual discovery itself. That's where you want to spend all your descriptions, right? Describing the actual discovery, what is in the box. Okay, and then you highlight how interesting it is because the keyword is interesting discovery. So you must spend more time at the discovery and the emotions you feel, your internal or external conflict. Okay, so now in my second paragraph, I'm going to introduce conflict. Okay, so I've shortcut already. Instead of introduction, rising action, I go straight to climax, then I go straight into my conflict. My climax and my conflict are together. Okay, so second paragraph, I'm going to introduce conflict. Can anyone tell me what kind of conflict I will introduce at this point in time? Bearing in mind that I just mentioned arachnophobia, right? What kind of conflict would I introduce, Skylar?
Internal conflict.
What kind of internal conflict? Can you give me an idea? Like elaborate a bit.
Fear.
Sorry?
A fear of what could be inside the box.
Okay, so conflict means there's two sides, right? So one side is fear of what's in the box, linked to my arachnophobia. What's the other side? Okay, wait, Skylar. I let Joshua answer that. Okay, thank you. Joshua?
Wait, what was the question?
So in a conflict, there's two sides, right? In conflict, there must be two sides, right? Because you have two people fighting, that's why conflict, right? So in this case, internal conflict on one side is my fear of spiders and my fear of what's in the box. That's on one side. What's on the other side? What's fighting against that?
Curiosity.
Yes, exactly. And you know the term curiosity killed the cat, right? Okay, killed the cat, right? Yeah. So there is a certain element of risk to curiosity, right? Whenever we are very curious, we tend to run a risk of getting ourselves in trouble. So that's the premise of this story. Curiosity leads to discovery. Because in order to discover something interesting, you must be curious, right? And the theme here is curiosity. And I want to illustrate that curiosity battling with my arachnophobia, and ultimately, which one will win? Arachnophobia or curiosity?
Curiosity.
Yeah, right, yeah. Curiosity must win. Because if I don't, then I won't discover. So my curiosity will be the winner of my internal conflict. Okay, right? So let's go.
Mr. Pam, Mr. Pam.
Yep.
I actually have an idea to incorporate external conflict right now.
Sure.
Because since right now you're with your brother, can we just choose first we can say my arachnophobia it got the best of me and I couldn't move, and then my brother asked me what happened, and then after you explained he said something like you're such a scaredy cat or something, because it's such a sibling thing to do. Then after that you are like to prove him wrong, I decide like after a fight, I decided that there's no turning back, and to prove him wrong,
Perfect.
I went ahead to open the box or something.
Okay, right. For the record, I love you, Dia. It's wonderful. Okay, that's exactly that. All right. Okay, don't worry. This is recorded. This will go out to everybody. Now, the point here that Dia brought up is great, and it actually short-circuited my response because actually I wanted to internal conflict then external conflict, but Dia wants me to foreground the external conflict first, which works. And remember, that's the reason why I introduced the brother. Do you understand? Okay.
No. Like I said, like first we can have the internal conflict, but instead of like going straight ahead to open the box, you just like tell your brother that you can't do it because of your fear.
Yes. Yeah, and Adrian was like rapidly saying great okays and everything, right? Yeah. So actually that was my plan. Okay, Dia. You reviewed my plan ahead of time. So you see, boys and girls, there are pointers I want to bring up. In the first paragraph, right? Why did I introduce the brother? Right? Why did I introduce the brother? Because you need another character for external conflict. Right? So can you see, boys and girls, when you write your story in the first paragraph, right? Never let your character be alone. Your character can be with anybody, but that person can be the source of external conflict. And of course, you don't need to use it. If you don't have time, right, just leave the person alone, right? But there is that possibility there that Dia just explained to us, right? So whenever you introduce your story, there are a few elements you must have. One, right, you must be the main character because it's easier to talk about your own feelings, especially if you are the protagonist. Two, you must have another character to play off so that there becomes external conflict. So the internal conflicts with yourself, because you cannot have internal conflict if you are not the main character, right? So you are the main character, number one. There must be another character, number two, and this other character must conflict with you in some way, like Dia just explained. That's external conflict. Then you can have both internal and external conflict, which answers the earlier question, right, that Dia also asked, can I have both internal and external? Yes, I strongly encourage it. That's why I set my story up to have the possibility of both. Do you all understand? So the template here is, in your first paragraph, you must have more than one character. Preferably two is good enough because you just need two for conflict. And more characters means you have to develop more. You may not have time for that. So two characters is the best. Brother and sister, best friends, classmates, whatever. Two characters. And these two characters can conflict in some way. And in the end, they can collaborate, right? The two of them will come together. And that resolution will not just be about resolving the discovery, it will also be about resolving the relationship. The conflict gets resolved in some way. Do you all understand the elegance of this system? If you have all these elements in place, you can choose not to use it. Right? Later on, if you think I don't want to do external conflict, right? I just want to focus on internal conflict because I want to show the character struggle with his own fear. Great. You can do that. Your brother can just be a bystander. It's not important. But if you want to, there's the option of external conflict like Dia just explained to us. But if you didn't write a brother in the first paragraph, you cannot suddenly introduce your brother in the second paragraph because it will not make sense anymore. Your story is no longer going to allow you to introduce a character at that stage. Do you understand? Everybody? All clear? Okay. I think this is a good point to take a break. All right. Shall we take a screen break? Then we come back at 9:45, right? Y'all can log off, right? I will stop the recording. We'll come back again at 9:45. I'll take another half an hour to close out. We try to finish by 10:15. Is that okay, everybody? I'm sorry for the delay, the lockdown and everything. All right. You're okay? All good? All good? Okay, great. Then I'll see y'all online again at 9:45. Okay? Bye.